You got it. Happy Saturday, guys. It's Bill T.
Adam Wick.
We're here at the EMPI Open House, and we're here for the Engine Battle 2024 for the competitors here, the finale. You've been watching all week. We've been watching. I know, Adam, I've been checking this out, and you've been watching as well, right?
Yep, I've been watching it all week at the shop, had it live streaming, and basically it's been pretty awesome. All these different competitors that came from all over the country to show what they can build, and basically it's a size, cubic inch per horsepower race to see who makes the most power per cubic inch. And
it's been pretty interesting to watch the week. I mean, everything's all over the board. We've seen big stroke, big bore. We've seen short stroke, big bore, and then we've seen standard stroke, mega bore. So we've really seen the gamut. And looking at the people, the contestants in the beginning, what was your thought when you saw the engine lineups? Like in your head, when you look at the different displacements that people have built, what was your thought process with the different motors?
Well, when you look at it, the motor size, and you look at it, basically it's horsepower per cubic inch. I was looking at it like the smallest engine is probably going to be the most efficient engine.
Right.
And so I would think the smaller engines probably have a little bit of a benefit, but there's been some big motors here that made a lot of power. So they might prove me wrong, but there is some little motors that made a lot of power. So we'll see. Today is the finals, and we're going to see at the end of the day who's the winner.
Yeah, so to give you guys a little run-up as to who we are, I'm Bill T. with Let's Talk Dubs podcast. Adam Wick here is legendary drag racer, off-road engine builder, and he's been in the VW game for over 30 years, built a ton of off-road motors. He's the knowledge, I'm the mouth. I just give you a bunch of nonsense and history, so if you haven't checked out the podcast, go to letstalkdubs.com, check that out. Adam Wick with Wick's Racing Engine builds some of the finest motors, a lot of winning motors. I mean, matter of fact, one of your LS motors that you've built is a 3-time champion motor?
Oh yeah, we do a lot of off-road stuff. We do everything from the little Volkswagen 1600s all the way up to the big LSs. You know, we just been doing it for 30 plus years. We're just motor guys, you know. We just love building all types of motors and going from there.
And so Adam's got the knowledge, so if you guys have got questions, feel free to shoot in those questions. I mean, what do you think motors you've built?
How many?
How many motors have you built?
Oh gosh, I would tell you thousands, 30 years worth. I mean, we do probably anywhere from 100 to 150 motors across our engine dyno in Las Vegas a year, all different sizes, brands, manufacturers, but you know, I couldn't even count that high, Bill.
So he's got the credibility. He's done thousands of engines. Me, I'm just an enthusiast like the rest of you guys. I love to be involved in the hobby. I'm a street car guy, and every now and again want to be drag racer when some lady in a minivan pulls up next to me to light. But today, I'm pretty excited to be here. First up today, we've got Wright Gearbox. They're going to be the first motor that's going to be pulling today. Each contestant gets about 30 minutes once they're bolted to the dyno. They get up, they do a test fire, they get it up to speed, and they'll get to do a couple pulls. Now, Adam, with you having a dyno at your shop and Dyno Tuning Motors, what is the process for you specifically when you're wanting to do a motor?
So basically, a lot of times we use our dyno for quality control and the final tuning aspects. So when we finish a build, it goes on the engine dyno. We go in there and basically break it in, make sure everything's working properly, adjusting the valves, making sure we heat cycle it, and it basically gets broken in properly before we start making big power pulls. These guys have already done all that. They're going to go right into their big power pulls. They get a 30-minute deal to basically try and get their jetting right, their timing right, and make the maximum power at the highest RPM that they can run their motor at, and basically see what kind of numbers they get.
Now, Wright Gearbox is up today. He's got a 2165, which there's a couple 2165s that have been in the competition. And it's kind of a shorter stroke. It's a big stroke, but it's a little shorter stroke with a big bore. I was surprised when I did a podcast with Ron Loomis with his notchback. He had a really short stroke motor in that notchback. Now, with a short stroke, what's the advantage you have with that?
Basically, they're trying to build a smaller cubic inch engine. With that shorter stroke, it should tend to want to run some more RPM with the cylinder head they have on it. The big bore, 94 bore, they're basically trying to put the biggest valve they can put in that bore to flow as much air through that motor as possible. Basically, that engine is just an air pump. the more air you can flow through that engine, usually the more power it'll make.
Yeah. So we're looking at here the 78 by 94. He's got scat rods, Wiseco pistons, Potter rockers. Probably, I'm sure everybody here has.
They all have EMPI heads on them.
Right.
I don't know what he has for a camshaft in that, but.
Well, and I think that's kind of the secret, right? The secret to most of these motors is head and cams, right?
Yes.
I mean, the
Yes.
RPM, the bottom end is going to vary. I mean, really, the stroke is just going to vary where your torque comes on out, or your torque curve.
Yep. You got it.
And mostly the camshaft and the head. So if a guy really knows how to work a set of heads and you know some tricks, you might be able to squeeze a little more power out of something than the next guy.
Oh, it really comes down to the heads and the cam package. When they really get down to the nuts and bolts, it's heads, cam, exhaust, carburetors.
So today,
I don't think these guys are limited as far as compression ratio goes. I think they all have to run a specific fuel, but I've kind of heard over the last week that you got guys somewhere in the 12, 13 to 1 compression, and there might be guys that have more than that, and that's power also. So
yeah,
it's going to be pretty awesome.
No, they're warming up the motor right now, and you typically, when you're going to do a full pull, now I wanted to mention we've got Jack Sacchetti on the dyno today. Now you go way back with Jack, right? I mean, you guys go back to the 90s drag racing scene.
Yes, we do. Jack and I battled in what they used to call Pro Stock or Pro Sedan back in the early 90s. It's awesome. We're still great friends today. He's basically operating the dyno today, which is awesome, and he's a legend.
So he's familiar, and that kind of is some of the deal, right? If somebody, I mean, you have a dyno in your shop, but if someone grabs you and threw you in a shop and said, "Here, run this dyno," it's going to take you a little bit to kind of get used to the idiosyncrasies of each
Every
machine.
dyno has its own personality. It takes a little bit of finesse to run them, and depending on what the motor wants. Some of these motors, there's a motor out here I think that's only 1,721 cc's. That is a high RPM engine. That is not an easy engine to run on that dyno, so Jack will have his hands full running that one.
Yeah, so with this motor right here, what do you think the red line's going to be on this motor?
Oh, I would tell you this motor, 2165 with the cylinder head and cams that I'm seeing on here, they're going to run this thing every bit of 8,000 RPM for sure. They'll probably make peak power somewhere in the high 7s, low 8,000 RPM range. Is probably what they're looking at.
And where that comes into play is when you're talking camshaft. Like if a guy, so making this applicable to us street guys, when you're looking at camshafts, you're going to want to look at the power band on that thing, because if you're wanting a cam to drive around every day in your daily driver, you're going to want a low-end power band cam. But these guys building for maximum power, wide open, they're getting FK series cams, 87s, 89s, stuff with those type of grinds.
Yeah. These guys all pretty much probably have some type of drag race cam in it, ratio rocker, very high lift, anywhere from probably 600 up as far as a valve lift goes. Lots of duration. They are definitely going for the all-out power. They're not really worried about how the engine street drives. There's more just looking for that big horsepower number.
Yeah, I'm excited to see these things run today, especially with Jack on the dyno. You're going to see I think you're going to see real consistent pulls. Hopefully, with him having as much history as he does with this dyno, it's kind of like, back into that old shoe that you've had forever. It just fits and you run it right. And some of the, with respect to running a dyno, there's a lot of technicality to it as far as when you apply. Because for some of you guys that are watching this that don't really understand how a dyno works, a dyno puts a load on the motor, and the operator can determine at what RPM that load and how much load is put on there, right?
Yeah. Basically, a dyno is a water brake, and basically it has a torque link on it, and they load that motor at a specific RPM of whatever the customer would want or client would want, and then you can take off of that torque link. There's a mathematical formula where they can come up with the horsepower and torque.
And now, with running that and the dial that's on there, the hand dial they create, that's the water brake you're controlling.
You're controlling how much water goes into that brake. It's basically a straight vein brake that you apply water, and it's basically like loading the engine, making it harder for the engine to basically turn over, and that puts pressure on the torque link. That torque link's tied into a gauge, so basically you're coming up with a torque reading. So
when you're dynoing different motors, off-road motors versus all-out drag motors, is there a different way that you apply the power, the load on the motor? Like for an off-road motor?
Off-road motors usually don't run big RPM, you know, maybe 7,000 RPM, 7,500. Drag race motors or all-out motors definitely run way more RPM. They probably won't even start running these motors till 6,000 all the way up to 9,000 RPM.
So you'll run it up 6,000, no load, and then you'll start adding the load.
Start applying load to that, which in turn will start loading the motor until you're wide open throttle. And once you're wide open throttle, you can take a reading off your torque meter.
So if I'm listening right, it's kind of a dance where you're kind of loading it and revving at the same time.
100%.
And so really, how accurate and smooth that is going to determine the accuracy of the results in the dyno.
Yes, sir. You got it. You nailed it. I mean, that's...
Well, again, I'm representing us street guys, and he's the race technical guy, so I'm just trying to translate and make sure I understand. So if it sounds like I'm asking ridiculous questions, I want to make sure that everybody watching this can understand what's taking place. And I know a lot of guys are like, yeah, we all know, Bill, everybody knows what a dyno is, but I think sometimes I find personally the technical aspect of this pretty fascinating. So this motor, is it fired up yet?
Looks like they were warming it up here. They're trying to do a couple little things. They're just getting ready to start. So Wright Gearbox, Ricky Wright, I know these guys from the off-road world. He does a lot of street car stuff, a lot of off-road stuff. Great guys up there in Riverside. This is a 78 by 94, 2165. They all pretty much have a 48 millimeter EMPI or IDA style carburetor on them. That's what the
and I think
choice
anything
is. They
were up to whatever you wanted. As long as it's EMPI, you put it on there, you could run it.
Oh
right?
yeah. They had a specific list of parts that they had to get from EMPI, cases and heads and this, but they could modify those parts. I've noticed that some of these guys have modified their EMPI headers to their likings, changed the collector size, changed the tube lengths, which is great. This is a competition, and it's all about who has the ideas and ingenuity to try and make some more power than the next guy.
Yeah, I'm now looking at this. There's a couple motors that ran with stingers, and a couple motors ran with a muffler on there. I noticed there was one that had kind of a muffler, a little bit of suppression on there. Now, with respect to motors and wrapping out a motor, what difference does it make with some sort of suppressor on there versus wide open? I know everybody wants to say like, oh yeah, Bill, that's a stupid question. Wide open is going to run faster, but it does affect it. I mean, because the motor does require at some point a little bit of back pressure, right?
Absolutely. You can adjust back pressure by changing the collector diameter, or some guys choose to put some type of maybe restriction with a muffler. Normally, all your high output all-out motors are an open header, and then we just tune it off the collector diameter. So you can change the collector diameter as small as 100 thousandths and see a power gain. Or see a power loss for that reason. But I see all the different motors sitting out here in the shop at EMPI, and they have all different types of combinations. So it'll be really interesting to see who comes out on top today.
Yeah, one of the motors that I looked at when I was really looking at the specs on this thing was the Tafta Inc. because he went straight with the 101, like a 4-inch bore, which was like Big Daddy bore, and he went with the 69 stroke. He didn't make it. He's not in the finals. They were at Powerhouse last night doing some dyno tuning, just trying to get some stuff, and they just were trying to see if they could get some of that. Okay, now we can see some of the live stream comments. So if you guys are watching, we can see the comments. Let me take a look. That's right. Tori Alonso says the 90s race legend, Adam's wicked drag car debut was amazing. Right on. So, yeah, a lot of people on there. Want to see some good horsepower. Brandon Powell, what's up, buddy? A lot of you guys out there. Let's see. That's it. Next year at a home builders class, he says. So now we got the motor fired up,
guys.
They're getting ready to get this thing fired up. I'm checking it out, looking at the stream. If you guys got some questions, hit us up in the chat. What's up? We've got Germany on here. You know, there's some guys in Sweden and Germany that are building those little what do they call them, rat motors, little tiny, little 1600s that they're wrapping out. So we're warming up. We're getting ready for the first pull on the right motor, and we're going to see what this 78 by 94 does. Now they can do 3 pulls if they want, but if they get 1 pull and they're happy, they can.
They basically have a 30-minute window from the time they started up. If you guys look at the live stream going in the dyno room, I think they had a clock in there earlier this week. Right now, Jack's just putting a little load on that motor, trying to get some heat in it, get the oil temperature ups. It looks like you got Jesse Harden in there with Ricky Wright, basically checking some stuff out and getting ready to go.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what our first pull is going to bring us, and get this thing going. They just warmed it. They warmed it and shut her down. So got it up to operating temperature.
Yeah, they're just trying to get the oil temps up.
They're checking it out.
Oil temp needs to get up a little bit, and then they'll check some stuff out. And I think they'll get ready to do their first pull. So they got a 30-minute window. They can do as many runs as they want in 30 minutes. But I think if they hit one good run, I think you'll see most of these guys go ahead and say that's good and call it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if you were in this competition, let's say you decided you want to be in this competition, what would be your motor from the motor man? What would be the motor you build for this thing?
I'm going to tell you, with the rules that they have outlined right now, I would build a small cubic inch motor. It would be probably 1900 cc's or less, and we would definitely just try and rev that thing to probably 8,500, 9,000, and it is basically horsepower per cubic inch, so the motor would be more efficient, less drag with a smaller stroke. The cylinder heads would be, kind of your limiting factor for all these motors. Is
right.
The cylinder head is the limiting factor, but I would probably do the smaller motor.
So when you're looking at a competition like this, if you were to modify some of the rules or put something in there that would make it really, really interesting, what things, what caveats would you add as an engine builder?
Well,
to just see what you got?
I'm sure that they'll be doing some adjustments for next year if they do decide to do this. This has been awesome that EMPI has put the time and effort in to do this. If any of you guys watch the V8 World, they have Engine Masters and they do the same thing, and it is an awesome deal. But I would probably tell you to pick an RPM range that we did it in, maybe from 6 to 8 or 5 to 7, and just take an average of maybe 3 different areas of RPM and come up with an average, so it's just not one big horsepower number.
Well, so it looks like they've got the motor warmed up. I'm assuming that now they're going to go with their first pull on it. So, I mean, is that typically the sequence? They'll warm it up, get up to operating temperature, shut it down, double check everything.
That is the sequence. They've got it all warmed up. They'll probably come in and do a small pull on it and just see where they're at, and then maybe make it a jet change or a timing change. A lot of these guys have worked on their motors all week, even after the, if they were early in the week, they've taken them home and maybe spent some time on other dynos and tried to perfect their motor to make it the best they can make it. So we're getting ready to make a pull here. We'll see how it goes.
Here's our first pull. Let's see what we got here. I tell you, I've never, whenever I've held a couple dyno days in Vegas back when we used to do the Vegas bug-in, and I would set up a chassis dyno day where guys would come up, and there's just something about, like, it's the same thing with drag racing, right? It's not the same until you're doing it, revving your motor, and it's not the same until you're sitting in your car and you're just revving it up, and it's like, you're just kind of like,
Yeah,
it's one of those things where it's a little tense.
That's our first pull of the morning, and I'll tell you what, I think the hair on my arm is standing up. It's just something that is in your blood. You love it. You love the sound of that motor just singing, and that was a great pull. Jack just came out of the dyno room. Everything looks like everything's going good, and we'll see what kind of numbers these guys end up with.
A lot of stuff is happening here today. If you guys are here, come by, check out the EMPI open house. We've been here a little bit early, and it's swarmed outside already.
Yeah, man, it is awesome. Tons of awesome looking street cars, show cars. They got a swap meet going on. They got food trucks. They got vendors. It's just phenomenal. So you got all the big names out there. And there's some beautiful cars.
And there's a lot of variety with them. I mean, there's a whole Manx buggy class. There's a lot of off-road cars, which is really cool. I think sometimes with the VWC, there's a little too much separation. And when you have an event when you can see something like this, and because it's EMPI, right? EMPI supplies stuff to the street scene, the off-road scene. There's a lot of different people here between the buggies, the off-road cars, the street cars, the buses, all that stuff. But it's pretty cool to see that variety. It really, you never realize how wide the reach of the Volkswagen platform is until you're at an event like this and you see off-road cars next to street cars, next to buses, next to trikes, next to every single different platform, and it's all. And the interesting thing is they're all kind of different scenes, but there's always a little bit of overlap between the two, which is
it's pretty awesome. One thing I did notice this morning when I was pulling in, a lot of nice street cars, man. And I've been in Vegas for 24 years, and I just forgot how many nice street cars are down here in Orange County. There was probably 25 Myers-Manxes.
Yeah.
I saw Blake Wilkie. All Blake Wilkie stuff was out there, all the shreddy stuff, all his crazy cars that he has, his 2 Class 11s and his big Baja.
That's it. Well, also Wick's Racing Engine has a little tent out there too.
Yeah,
if you wanted to get some Wick's Racing gear, get you a hat.
My
or
guys
a shirt.
are out there. We got a couple cars that we did motors in. The Romero Brothers real street car that we'll be racing tomorrow at the Bug In. You can come out and check that out. Irwindale. Nick has his personal street car out there that we did a 2332 for. There's some T-shirts, some hats, some stickers. Go by and grab one.
Yeah. Now, we've got the first pull. Jack is back. Is he back in the dyno room? Let me see.
I don't think so. There looks like they're rejetting it. I see him in there. Ricky's in there changing jets. They're probably looking at O2 sensors, seeing exactly where they're at. They probably feel this morning it's pretty cool here in Orange County. Nice in the shop here, so they're probably trying to get the maximum power with just kind of tweaking the jet a little bit more.
And that's a question. So that one ran to 7,500. Those are the numbers?
So this thing made 235 horsepower at 7,500 RPM.
235.
That is pretty awesome.
So that's the first one.
That's their first pull. Let's see if they
so
can
we'll
prove
do
on
right
that.
gearbox. Did
235 horse at 7,500 RPM. So we just got a little note from the guys over there. I have a feeling they'll probably run this thing up a little bit higher, probably closer to 8,000.
Yeah.
I know they ran that thing at 8,000 earlier in the week, and it made some more power. So
now,
Ricky
so here's a
and
question.
Here and there tweaking on it, and I'm sure.
Here's a question I have for you. Now, when you're running this thing, now these guys all ran these motors earlier this week.
Yeah.
You figure with that much time on the dyno, they would adjust the jets. Now, depending on the weather of today, they would make a jet adjustment?
Oh, for sure. Today it feels pretty nice out. Like I said, in the shop here, it's maybe 70 degrees. And they're definitely changing jets, trying to get that last little bit of power. So I think you'll see all these guys that going in and basically adjusting jets and tweaking stuff because they're trying to win that money, buddy. Win that money.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting for me as just a streetcar guy to see these guys actually change jets from day to day to just try to squeeze out whatever they can out of it. And I guess they're reading off the O2 sensor where they need to be, and they'll make some adjustments. Typically, when it gets cooler like this, Air Cooled Vintage Works, he was here on I think he was here on Thursday. He was the last guest host. And he says, make sure we stay hydrated because it's going to get hot in here. So,
well,
I didn't see any insulation on the roof.
Nice.
You're probably right.
Yeah, it's nice. They got it nice in here for us. So
yeah, it's still early, and luckily they started early today.
Yeah, they started early today. They're trying to get this over early so everybody can go enjoy the show here at EMPI. It's just it's a great deal that they're putting on. I mean, It's really pretty awesome. I've never been down to the open house. Matter of fact, I've been an EMPI dealer for 20 plus years, and I've never been here at their facility, and it's pretty awesome, pretty impressive. As you can see, a big stack of cylinder heads behind us.
Yeah.
The CNCs are running this morning making heads for guys, so it's pretty neat.
They are. I mean, there's, Tori Alonso on the chat also said, big props to EMPI, says they've done a 180-degree move since they were, 5-6 years ago. They're doing everything they can to kind of get to support the hobby, to have events like this, to do more than just be a supplier. And so we definitely, the hobby recognizes that. And, we're in a pretty critical hobby. People are pretty critical of newcomers and companies that have been in town for a while. And so it's good to see that the guys, that the team here at EMPI has really been focused on making sure they're improving the hobby one step at a time, trying to do what they can. So
they are. They're definitely trying to ask the right questions. They've been out to my shop a couple times, asking me, ask me, where they can improve. And so I hear the motor running again. Looks like they're getting ready to do the next pull. So we'll give you guys some results here in a minute.
We're gonna see. So last pull on this motor, we were sitting at 235 horse for an NA motor. They're running that 110 fuel, so for sure, these are probably motors that would not be street. Maybe that. Well, I mean, I guess they could do a real street setup where they have to run 9 to 1 octane, right? So that is a load.
Yeah, that one sounded good. Sounded like it might have went a little bit more RPM there. Nice controlled pull. So now, I'm sure they'll be out here with some numbers here shortly.
And if you guys are watching on the live stream right now, make sure you guys hit us up with some questions. You got questions for Adam. Adam has definitely got a lot of engine experience, building different motor combinations and everything from off-road. And I've always been really impressed with off-road engine builders, in my opinion, because you started out as a drag race engine builder. And
I started out in Orange County guy. Grew up in Anaheim, right around the corner here from EMPI. Of course, back in the 80s when I went to go get my first car, it was either back then it was a mini truck or a Volkswagen, and I chose the Volkswagen, right? And that kind of sent me on my path of building engines.
And now, so when you were building your motor for drag racing and you were trying to squeeze every last bit of power out of it for a quarter mile, was it a different mentality than when you started building off-road engines?
Absolutely different in mentality. Drag race deal and trying to get the most performance out of any engine. I mean, it's all out power search. The off-road side of it that we do now, it's an endurance search. Yeah, you still have to have power to be competitive in these classes, but you have to remember that, we race anywhere from 250 miles to 2,000 miles. So they got to last.
Yeah, that to me was always, again, I hate to bring up a Type 4, but if you guys know me, I want to bring up a Type 4. That's why the Type 4, the Type 4s with the torque monsters, when I with the podcast I did with Greg Aronson, he said they called them tuna boat motors because they were just these big lugging motors, but the bottom end torque on the street, it's what you feel. The off-road guys, they build motors that have to make it 1,000 miles wide open with the guy behind the wheel who could care less, right?
Yeah, it is. The Type 4 is making a comeback. We're doing a lot of Type 4 stuff for the NOR 1000 car guys. Actually, I think EMPI's got a whole line of Type 4 stuff getting ready to come out, cylinder head-wise, which will be great that we can get heads from them that are already finished, CNC ported, valve job, and ready to go. So yeah, Bill, your dreams are coming true.
That's it. Well, it looks like he's getting pretty stoked. What's up, Steve Hole in the house?
Yep.
So it looks like the reaction we had on Wright's face, looked like he was pretty psyched there for a second. So maybe he's
I think
maybe he got some better news than before.
Yep.
I mean, 235. What's interesting is a lot of people that may be watching this that are into V8 motors, stuff like that. For all I know, they could be looking at 235 and thinking that's not a lot of power. You put 235 on the street, and that's going to feel like a V8 in the back of that thing.
Oh yeah, 235 horsepower in a street car. Oh my God, that's a pretty wicked
that's a
ride.
Lot of power.
No pun intended.
So, So Isaac Potter says build an old school 78 by 88. Wick, that's what he tells you. Build an old school 78 by 88.
Yeah, that's Chris Klingerman, Mike Smith, NHRA style motor is what you're saying. So
and those motors, when they built those motors like a 78 by 88, was that to stay within a class?
Yeah, most of the guys back in the 70s and 80s ran NHRA modified compact, and they built these really small, high RPM engines. So back the Gene Berg, Gary Berg, Mike Smith, Chris Klingerman, the Larsons, these guys all ran Winter Nationals, World Finals. They were on the NHRA circuit, and basically it's all weight per cubic inch. Smaller motor you built, the more power you could make. And back in those days, we didn't have the technology. We didn't have the cylinder heads that we have nowadays that guys like EMPI have came out with, So that's allowed us to build bigger inch motors and make more power per inch.
So we're getting ready. Hopefully they'll bring us the results. This one looks like they're doing a little cool down on the motor. Maybe going to go for a third run.
Yep, looks like they.
Now, speaking of cooling down, last time you guys were at the Bug-In, you guys, the Ramirez brothers. That was
the Romero brothers.
The Romero brothers. They had a little cooling setup. Everybody was gathered around the car trying to figure out what was going on.
The Romero brothers, I drove their car 30 years ago in Super Street, and they decided they want to build this real street car. And so we kind of looked at it, and when I started doing my homework, I noticed that it's got to be a street car. You got to drive it, but it's got all the tins and stuff on it, and it's really hard to cool them down in between runs because we don't run the fan during the race, but we run the fan when we have to drive it back and forth. So they developed a pretty awesome little cooling box that has some blowers in it that we hook directly into the fan shroud, so when we're in the pits we can help cool the motor down. So everybody saw that at the first race of the year here. I'm sure they'll mimic it, and we'll see some more stuff tomorrow out there.
And I'm curious, have you ever checked it with like a temp gun to see how much you can drop the temperature between rounds?
We drop 40 degrees of cylinder head temp in probably 20 minutes. We have a temp gun, we check it all.
So if you just let it sit, you would just get heat soaking that head. It would never cool down. The cooler it stays, obviously the better it runs. Everybody's fought that battle with trying to, I don't know how many times I've seen people water cool heads on Volkswagens or try all kinds. It's been the gamut of different things.
Yeah, you can see in the dyno room there, they got two nice big blue fans blowing up on the cylinder heads, because most of these engines that they're doing don't have any type of cooling on them. And they're just trying to cool that thing off, get the cylinder heads cooled down, to where it'll make maximum power for the next pull.
And that's the game here, right? Maximum power per cubic inch. So we're looking at we're waiting on this second pull. Well, they're going to do a third pull, but we're waiting on. We don't have any results from the second pull yet. It looks like they're getting ready to do a third pull.
Yeah, it looks like they were adjusting the timing a little bit in there. They're probably going to put a little timing in it or take a little timing out and see if it gains a little power.
Now, speaking of timing, I've got a question. This is me being a street guy. If any of you guys think this is a silly question, you're wrong. I used to see a bunch of guys run magnetos.
Oh.
So why am I seeing none of these motors here with a magneto, and what's the deal?
Well, magneto was back in the 80s, right, for a hot spark, and that's what they ran. Now electronics have gotten so much better. The magneto had a lot of mechanical devices inside there. It took power to run it. So now you'll see most of these guys all have, looks like an EMPI billet distributor or some type of billet trigger distributor that they run. It takes a lot less friction to turn that thing over. The electronics are so much better nowadays. Some of them have crank triggers with some MSD boxes. I don't know how the dyno room's set up. I'd have to look in there. And it's just easier for it to turn over, less friction. Electronics have just got better over the years, and magnetos are vintage.
Now, when you ran your drag car, did you run a mag on your car?
In the very beginning, we had a mag. And then eventually we swapped to MSDs because of the two steps and the starting line stuff that you can do. But in the very beginning, everybody pretty much had a magneto.
Yeah. Well, and so for those guys that are listening that don't know what a magneto is a self-sparking distributor, right?
100%. Yeah.
Takes no power to run it.
Well, it takes no power as far as 12 volts to
run it. You don't have to put any power into it when you crank it inside, because kind of the joke is like you have somebody hold a plug while you spin the bottom of the...
Yeah, that's exactly.
The bottom of
how you shut it off is you ground it out. It shuts off. So there's a single wire that goes up to the body of the magneto, and you ground it out, and that will kill it. But you'll see it on, the guys that are real true vintage guys from the 80s, street car guys, you'll see them with some Vertex magnetos or Joe Hunt magnetos still in them. And it does, it's an era thing. Back in the 80s, that was what everybody ran.
Well, so we've got a couple comments here. So Isaac Potter estimated the horsepower, 250, 275 horsepower. So we'll see. They're ready to fire it again. I think they just gave the signal to fire again.
There it is.
Slip into 88. One guy said slip in 88s are trash. There's also machine in 88s. So Isaac had to correct him like that. Shout out to Isaac up there in Northern California. If you guys are listeners from Let's Talk Dubs, post in the chat LTD so I know who my listeners are out there. And then if any of you guys have experienced any WIC racing engines, make sure you put WIC in the chat. Got a couple people watching from Malaysia. We've got Sweden in the house. we've got Germany, a lot of people from all around the world. So, you know, I'm excited to see this third. We got our third and final pull coming up. These guys have 30 minutes.
Yeah, they got 30 minutes. If you look on the wall there, it says 9 minutes left for their 30. They'll be able to get at least one more pull right now, maybe one more after that. Looks like they're getting ready to go right now, guys.
Here we go, next pull. Did that seem not as high RPM to you?
No, I would tell you that was definitely, I would tell you a little bit higher RPM. I almost thought I heard a little bit of a rev limiter in there, or maybe, hopefully not a valve float, but I would tell you a little rev limiter it kind of touched. But I think that sounded like a pretty darn good pull to me, man. You can see the reversion come out of the top of the carburetors if you're watching the live stream. That's pretty normal, depending on how long a runner you have.
They talked about that a couple times yesterday, and you call it reversion, where you get the atomization comes up out of the carburetor because of the pulsing from the motor.
Yep.
Fred Simpson, if you go back and listen to the podcast I did with Fred Simpson, he talks about his goal of trying to capture that fuel, like trying to somehow use that to just stay pulling through, and that was maybe one of the things that he did when he'd machine cylinder heads or tweak heads, just to try to see how much they could limit that. Now, what's interesting is with that 4-cylinder motor, it's pulsing on the different ports. Now, at one point in your drag racing time, you had a single plenum box over top with 248s, I think, on it.
That is some stuff that we tried back.
But I mean, like back in the days when it's in the beginning, you guys are going for anything, right?
Yeah. You know, in the V8 world, it's all about plenums and tunnel rams, and so myself, Jimmy Larson, there was 2 or 3 guys out there. Ron Loomis did some. We built plenums for him and tried them. And had pretty good success with them. It takes a lot of work, a lot of dyno time, but you're just always, you know, that was back before they had big carburetors. Now we can buy carburetors that are 52, 58, 60 millimeter carburetors. Back then we had 48s, and it just wasn't enough for a big cubic inch engine.
Now, now when you were running in your class, was there anybody trying to run a single 4-barrel carburetor? Was everybody always running 2?
Nah, we did a single Holley 1050 on our plenum at one time. Didn't really get it to work that well. Loomis, he did 2 500 2-barrel carburetors on some plenums.
Like separate sides?
Yeah, separate sides.
So had the 500 CFM with a plenum into the dual ports.
Yeah, 500 2-barrels that we dynoed for him back in the 90s, and he got them actually to work pretty good. Ron is a very smart guy, as you guys know, chassis builder, but he's a hell of an engine guy too.
Yeah.
So it looks like they are done. They called it.
We are done with this
some
motor.
Results here, guys.
And we're gonna see here. Whoa! All right, so we've got the pulls. Adam, you want to give the results of Wright Gearbox's motor?
So our first pull was 235 horsepower, 162 foot-pounds of torque. They improved a little bit on their second pull, 238 horse. On their third pull, matched it, 238. So basically for that engine, being a 2165, it looks like they are 238 horsepower and 160 foot-pounds of torque.
So with your experience building engines, 2165, 235 horse, a lot of work into that motor?
Oh yeah, all these motors, I don't care. They all have a lot of work in these motors. It's a huge undertaking financially and time-wise, so I give them props, man. I mean, when EMPI came and talked to me and wanted to know if we wanted to do it, with our work schedule, we just weren't able to make it happen in the short amount of time. If they do this next year, and depending on how the rules are, I think you'll see us with an engine. Yeah,
I think it'd be, it would be definitely interesting to see what would come if there were some rule changes, maybe some power adders, things to that extent. I think that would be interesting to see, but it would also be definitely, we'd have to get a lead-lined dyno room, I think, if we were going to do power adders on the dyno.
Yeah. Power adders is probably not a good thing.
So we got Jeff Wright coming up.
Oh, Ricky Wright.
Rick Wright. My bad.
We'll scoot over and get him in here.
Move the chalice over here and get this cup over here. Get the microphone so we can share it. So, how do you feel about the dyno pool?
I felt it went good.
Yeah.
Good numbers. I mean, looked real good, sounded good.
And comparing into how you ran earlier this week, What were your numbers earlier this week?
I believe they saw a 252, but I think the dyno spiked up a little bit on that. I mean, realistic numbers today, I think they're spot on.
So you're feeling pretty good with these numbers.
I'm feeling great about those numbers.
Now, what was your decision to do a 2165? I mean, you had the whole gamut to do. What was your thought process in doing that?
I didn't want to go for the biggest displacement. I wanted a motor that was going to wing up there pretty high and make the RPM. I didn't want something that was going to be low down torquey, so I didn't want to put a big crank in it. The other thing is honestly, my whole intention with this is I'm going to take the motor back to my shop, do a cam change, lower the compression, put sheet metal on it, and shove it in a car. I'm going to drive it. So, I mean, it'll still be a 200 horsepower street motor.
Absolutely.
Fun.
And what is the compression on this motor right here?
Right now it's at 12.7 to 1. So it's not,
Nailed it.
It's not real high.
Yeah, so it's not, I mean with the parameters of using 110 gas, what's max compression you do in something like that?
I mean, we could go realistically 13 and a half, almost 14 if we wanted to, but it's why?
Yeah. So overall, you're feeling good. A lot of head work done on this thing.
Yes, a lot of head work. Want to thank Brothers for helping me out. Brothers VW did a great port job on them.
Nice.
Helped me with some machine work, stuff like that. Definitely want to thank Jesse, Fast Jesse on Instagram for helping me dial it in,
right.
Tuning out here, spending his time, helping me out, stuff like that. And Competitive Edge dynos. Yeah. We were over at his shop for some late night polls trying to get this thing tuned and set where it needed to be.
So you're feeling really good. The number right there, you feel you got everything you could out of that motor.
I feel they're realistic numbers. They're right on the money. I feel great about it.
Nice.
Awesome. Good job, Rick. You guys came and conquered, and the thing's still running, so hopefully you get to put it in the street car and go enjoy that thing.
That's right.
Well,
yeah.
Hopefully you win the thing, right?
Yeah, I mean,
you never know. There's only one winner, but all in all, the motor looks great. Sounded awesome. I think you guys are in the running for sure.
Yeah.
No, definitely appreciate you coming out, putting the hard work in. And what do you think about this whole experience to do this? I mean, we know everybody's busy, right? No one can get an engine builder, turn around a motor pretty quick. And so for this to get dropped on you and you saying, I'm in, right? Adam earlier said, I just didn't have the time to get in it. So it's like, what did you see the opportunity of this to be? And especially maybe, was it to be part of this? Was it to be part of history? What was it? What was the motivating factor to do this?
Honestly, it was a little bit of everything. I mean, we're in this for the Instagram and the views and the people and to reach more customers and have more business brought into our shop. I think it was a great turnout. Everybody's been, real positive about it. I think it was a great deal. I mean,
the
obviously.
phone might ring and people say, "Hey, I need that 235 horse combo."
Hey,
that's it. That's the goal.
Yeah,
Well, and there's always the first one. So you were part of the first one that they did. We're part of it, which, me being really heavy into the podcast and tracking down the history of the hobby, I'm really excited to be part of the hobby and the history as it's being made. That's to me one of my favorite things. Now, after this is all done and you take this motor, you're putting in a personal street car for you?
I'm either going to put it in a personal street car or I'm going to offer it up for sale. And, if somebody wants a ground pounder, there it is.
No, this motor might be on display at SEMA because it could be the winner.
Oh, yeah.
Let's face it. Come on. You don't know.
That's
you
the
might
thing.
not get it back.
I definitely
that's
understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to hurt my feelings if that happens.
Hey, and for you, a question that I'll ask you, what's your ideal street combo over motor? Someone says, hey, I need the street secret. What is it?
You know what? Honestly, it all depends on what the customer wants to do. I honestly like to deal straight with the customer, and I like to get a feel of what he wants to do with the car. Anybody can we can all build big power number motors, but making them drivable, reliable, something that you're going to jump in and head from here to Vegas, that's a whole nother. That's a whole nother.
October 3rd through the 5th for one crazy weekend. We hope to see you out there.
There we go.
Because I hear that there may be a race, heads up money run that's happening on Thursday night out at the power plant, hosted by Johnny Osmondson. So he'll be flagging cars, and it'll be run what you brung, power adders, no power adders, and straight line elimination. Just,
Hey, that'd be fun.
So, listen, you're hearing it here first. If you got something fast, Thursday, one crazy weekend, bring out some power. So appreciate it. Thanks for coming out, man.
Hey, not a problem.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, good
buddy.
luck. What's that now? Oh, okay. So you're going now? All right, perfect. Okay. Love it. So we're on commercial now. All right. So we're still, listen, guys, we're just making this up as we go.
Yeah.
So we like it. But that's a pretty solid pull. I dig it. It sounded good. We've got 5 more to go, 1 down, 5 more to go. I was gonna have you grab my check over there, Adam, and bring it over here. But while you're entertaining the crew, who's up next? Tell them who's up next.
We got Jim's Custom VWs is up next. Looks like those guys are from Ohio. 2387, basically an 86.
I'm gonna take this home real quick.
Oh, look at this guy. Man.
Just bring it the check. Just show you guys we're here for the bacon, baby.
Yeah,
the
big money bill there, right? You know. But yeah, up next is Jim's Custom VW, guys. It looks like it's a 2387, 8694, pretty common motor package for a big street car.
And he's out of Columbiana, Ohio. So this is Midwest coming out here to show us what we got. What's it say there? He's got a 300 by...
Well, this thing basically has a whole line of EMPI parts in it. We got some EMPI connecting rods, Wiseco pistons, Crowler EMPI camshaft and lifters, standard VW flywheel, EMPI rockers, EMPI JC push rods, push rod tubes, alternator, all from EMPI. So this guy has a lot of EMPI parts in this thing. I'm very curious to see what kind of power it makes. It is a bigger inch motor, so it should be awesome.
No, that's it. Over here so where am I at here? On this motor, we've got this guy's coming from Ohio, so we've got guys from all over the nation over here. We had this guy even from South Carolina that was here. That was that Tafta Inc. who built that huge displacement motor. Jim over here is out of Ohio, Columbiana, and we're looking forward to seeing his run. Now he's run earlier this week, and we don't have his previous power numbers, I don't think.
No, I don't remember Jim's, but Jim looks like he has an engine shop in Ohio there. They build engines, transmissions, machine work. Actually looks like Jim and Amy. I'm assuming maybe that's his wife, here it says.
That's it.
Years of experience, 55 years. This guy has been doing it for a minute, right? So I'm sure he knows how to build an engine. And it'll be very interesting to see what kind of power he makes today.
What's interesting is that behind the scenes, what you guys don't see, man, is this is like a 3-ring circus, super fast, where they've got to take this motor off the dyno, strap the next one up, make sure everything's tight, and get this thing clicked off in the next couple minutes so that we can keep this rolling. And the goal is to get this check awarded to the winner today here during the event, which is the reason I started an hour earlier, which I think is awesome. This way you can celebrate that with the people that are here. If you guys are coming out today, there's a ton of cars out in the parking lot. There's all kinds of different stuff. I mean, there's over 1,000 people here, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. There was 1,000 people before we even walked into here, and I'm sure everybody's finally woken up here and made it down here. I
stopped at the gas and sip on the way here. And the guys down the street were waiting in line, and I think they might be the first ones here. Meanwhile, there's a huge line coming in on both sides, and I thought, well, they're going to show up. They're going to be the 150th person here.
Yeah, it was crazy. We had a line of Volkswagens to get in this morning. They were all kind of at Del Taco over here on Orangethorpe, and I was in that line in my pickup thinking, man, do I have to wait in this line? And I called some people up and said, no, come to the second driveway. You can pull right in for all the display stuff. So.
They say we've got an echo going on over here, so I don't know if we can see what we have happening with that echo, because I heard it for a little bit the other day. But yeah, we're going for we're a lot of people online rooting for Jim, so appreciate if you guys are rooting for the Midwesters. Make sure you guys put it up there. VW cruisers from the East Coast. So I guess it'd be Midwest, East Coast-ish. So
this will be great, man.
But it's good. You know, I've done a lot of podcasts with some guys out there on the East Coast and the Midwest. James Sofer, I know he's rooting for Jim. He was on the podcast. There's a lot of the shows all over the country, and it's rad to see the hobby just flourishing in so many different areas, you know.
It is. It's back when I was growing up, you didn't think of it as a worldwide thing, but to be real honest, the VW is a people's car, and when you look at what EMPI's done with the parts and the distribution of everything, it is literally worldwide.
Yeah, so
over this continent.
To answer a question, Vintage Excellence asks, what is the criteria to win? So criteria to win is horsepower per cubic inch or horsepower per cubic centimeter, so vice versa. But most horsepower for displacement. So that's the criteria to win. It's got to be EMPI parts, and then it's going to be, there's those parameters using EMPI parts, critical EMPI parts on the motor, and then build any displacement, any compression, any cam, any headwork. Yep. Everything's open other than EMPI brand parts, any displacement, and naturally aspirated.
They basically have to buy certain parts from EMPI. I know the cylinder heads, the exhaust. There was certain spec stuff, but they could modify those parts. So a lot of these guys took maybe an EMPI header and modified it, changed some stuff on it, took the cylinder heads maybe to their favorite cylinder head guy and had him do his fluff and buff and try and make them a little bit better than the next guys.
Yeah, I got Kentucky's on here rooting for Jim, so Sue says she's rooting for Jim. We got a lot of people all over the East Coast rooting for Jim. So it'll be nice to see. I ran into Jim in the elevator just on my way out. Didn't get to chat with him, but it's been interesting at the hotel. When I checked in last night, they said, "Oh man, there's all kinds of people here for this VW thing." Yes. So this thing, I came to it 2 years ago when they first did. I brought the chop top out, and that's why I did a podcast with Jim Erksey, who's the first guy that had one-piece windows. And I actually was introduced to him by Lonnie Reed from the head shop. So Lonnie was coming through here, and then he says, "Oh, you need to talk to this guy. He had the first set of one-piece windows ever." And then we went down the rabbit hole of getting that story. But the first time that I came here, it was pretty well packed. I got, set up in the back center over there, and was at my booth all day, which is where I get really conflicted with companies' events and set up to sell, because then you're kind of trapped in the space all day. And I'm a little bit like you. We're a little bit chatty, and we get to walking around, we get to chat with people, and it's like you're kind of stuck there for a minute.
Yeah, pretty soon the whole day's gone by, and you didn't get to do what you really wanted to do, but that's okay.
Yeah, no, but it's so great to see all these, everybody here that we see time and time again, over and over, at a lot of events. I remember, a lot of guests that I've had on my podcast have been people that I've known from seeing them at shows, but we've never chatted. I know they do something, so I say, "Hey, you do X, Y, and Z. Come on the podcast. Let's get your story." We've become friends. One, for example, is Steve with Wolfgang. He was in the running earlier. They were over at Powerhouse last night working on getting some the motors tuned up, and he was helping the guy, Paul from Tafta, with his motor. They were just trying to figure out what was going on with it, because it just seemed to lay over at about 5,500. They were trying to check a bunch of different things, and it's crazy because that motor sounded like a monster. I mean, when you got cylinders that big,
Yeah, I'd like to see that motor in person, because this guy must have done some extensive welding.
Well, he
stuff
talked about
on
a spread bore.
I think he talked more about a spread port, wasn't
Spread
it?
port. What's a spread port?
So spread port was developed, I don't know who actually did it, but I know back in the day, Gene Berg, Engine Machine Service, Fumio Funkaya, these are some guys that were innovators. They took VW heads and they actually moved the intake ports wider to where basically it was straight in line with the valve guide and the valve. So it's pretty much a straight shot. Extensive work to make that happen on a VW head. Lots of welding, lots of machining. I think I heard that that he had over 500 hours into that engine.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have put a lot of time, effort, energy into this, and now we're looking at Jim's motor that's on the stand right now for Jim's custom VW. So
yeah, it looks like they're putting earmuffs on. They're getting ready to go. He has some interesting stuff there. Looks like he has a vacuum pump on this thing. So he's trying to scavenge as much case pressure out of that thing to free up some power.
So when you're experienced drag racing, what difference horsepower-wise does the vacuum pump make?
Oh man, vacuum pump, depending on what kind of air you're pulling out of it, Rule of thumb for us is every inch of vacuum is 1 horsepower. So if you pull 15 inches, it's probably 15 horse. So
Really? That's that's a big deal. And then that vacuum pump, they're dumping it into a bucket. Is it just really just sucking blow-by out of there?
It's sucking blow-by and oil. So realistically, it's a drag race thing only, quarter mile only. So yeah, and it looks like he's moved, he might have had a muffler on this earlier in the week. Now he's running it just out of the collector, straight collector, which that'll be very interesting to see how that works.
Yeah.
They're warming that thing up right now. He'll get some heat into it, probably shut it back off and let it
We're getting it to operating temperature here, getting ready to fire this thing up. Now what's interesting is I've got a, let's see, a guy here says, he says, Vintage Excellence says EMPI should develop an overhead cam 4-cylinder head for Type 1, then you'll make some revs and horsepower. Funny enough, that was, what is it, Aero...
I think Aero Engineering back in the day did that.
Aero Engineering did like a 4-valve per cylinder head. If you go back into probably the mid-'80s,
maybe early 90s, they tried to do some stuff like that. I remember seeing that. I don't know if anybody was real successful running them, but there has been guys that tried it.
There have been some 4 valves per cylinder. Now the whole overhead cam aspect is a gigantic game changer.
Oh yeah.
Because now you've got a lot of stuff that you're adding. You know, they're used to there's a guy named Dyno who built the Polo motors. Those were Porsche 6-cylinders cut down to a 4-cylinder. So that was an overhead cam 4-cylinder motor that's been developed. So to answer your question, Vintage Excellence, it has been done. It's super expensive. A Polo motor running about 30 grand. I think now Rod Emery's having something like that made right now, because I know that that Polo motor, Dean Palopoulos, a Greek, I'm sure.
Yes.
Greeks. He developed that custom made cams, custom cranks, and then a custom modified 911 engine case. But those motors, I think those motors were RPM motors. They weren't like massive. They were around the 250 horse.
Yeah, it's basically a 4-cylinder 911 style motor, getting ready to make some noise here, guys.
We're getting ready. We're going for first pull now.
Nice.
That sounded good. That sounded good. Let's see if we can read the room and see what everybody's thinking.
Yeah.
We had a pull, a shutdown. He grabbed a screwdriver right away. He's starting to.
Absolutely.
He's working
on jets, maybe. Looks like he's in there pulling some stuff apart and trying to tweak it a little bit and see if he can get some more out of it. As you can hear, I don't know, we can hear it pretty well here. That was a bigger cubic inch motor, so you did not hear it revving up to the moon. It sounded probably like, I would tell you, maybe 7,000 RPM, is where he's probably built this engine to make its power at. So we'll see when they give us the results here.
So I know you were drag racing in the 80s. You're still a contemporary engine builder. You're up to date on all this stuff. But me, because I always love chasing down some of these facts, the roller bearing cranks. Like this guy's talking about 4-cam cylinder heads, right? It seems like they've tried just about everything in the VW world. The roller bearing cranks, did they serve a good purpose for something?
I think back in the day, before the quality H-beams and crankshafts were out, the roller bearings were what these guys did. They learned that from a motorcycle venue. A lot of the motorcycle stuff still roller bearing. The biggest problem with the roller bearing crankshafts is the rods would break. I have a brand new one still in the box at the shop that somebody gave me, and I've been wanting to put it in something just to try it, because really I've never ran one, but just never have the time.
Yeah, I think I had a roller bearing crank that I picked up, was in super nice shape when I bought a car. I left it in some parts that were on the side of my house in a swap meet, and water got inside the plastic container. So now this beautiful roller bearing crank's a little bit pitted. Yeah. But I always thought it'd be super slick if you did roller rockers and roller crank and try to make a full roller motor?
Yeah, that's it would be. It's it'd be interesting just to use it, just to try it and build a roller bearing magneto style engine. Maybe get an old set of Fumio spread port heads to make it straight 1980s technology.
Yeah, so we're waiting for the number for Jim. I think they just did a jet change. They might be getting ready to fire it up again. In the meanwhile, we're giving you good commentary, a little bit of history nonsense. One of the questions I wanted to ask about earlier drag racing days were the Rodzillas. So those were the billet aluminum connecting rods.
I think Potter made those, right?
Are people still using aluminum connecting rods?
I think there's an engine in this competition sitting over there that has aluminum rods in it. I think that's 1721 from Seaward Speed Shop. I think I saw some pictures of that, maybe on the internet. And I wouldn't be surprised if that motor has a aluminum connecting rod in it. It has a small enough stroke, you could fit it in that case. There's definitely some advantages to that for a drag race only. We would not recommend that for any type of street car. But they're super light. They're very absorbing as far as shock loads. So there's a purpose for them in certain things.
No, I think it's when you look at the technology that's evolved through Volkswagens, through drag racing, all the parts and pieces that have been developed, whether it's been like this guy was asking about 4-cylinder overhead cam stuff, all these different aspects of technology that people have tried to apply. I'm still waiting for it, and I talked to Pat Downs last time I interviewed him again. I keep bringing up direct injection heads.
Oh, I don't know if you're ever going to see that in a Volkswagen world, because that's kind of the new GM and Ford stuff.
They're doing it. That's why when you hear that your new style motor, it sounds like it's dieseling a little bit. It's because it's direct injection. Usually is kind of the noise, because it makes a little bit more noise on the combustion. Is what I've heard on a lot of those motors when they're running. They just got a little bit of a pop to them, a little bit different. But at least from my experience, because the Ecotechs you do, those are port injected.
No, we do some Ecotechs that are port injected. We do them that are direct injected. There's no doubt the direct injected motor makes a little bit more power. It's a little bit more efficient.
So you've dynoed both. So what's the horsepower difference, direct injected, port injected?
On a 200 horsepower motor, it's 12 horse.
That's it. That's a lot of work for 12 horse.
That's a lot.
Get a vacuum pump.
There you go. Yeah, but
so we're getting ready. Jim's going to do his second run. So good luck for Jim. I'm excited to see what's happening with Jim and see what we get out of our guy, Jim Papania. Second pull. Nice, and so we've got second pull done. Let's see if we can read the room there. See what kind of vibes we're getting.
Yeah,
we got happy faces and smiles, or what?
How good it was, right?
So right, we got. I'm just filling my card in here. Right, we got 238. You got
238. Yep.
All right, we're gonna wait to see what Jimmy's got over here. Yeah, 238. We're keeping that. We got a couple extra bucks.
Arranging our desks here, guys. Arranging our desks, trying to get our stuff in line.
Staying organized for you.
Yeah, kind of OCD here.
I'm pretty interested to see what we got going on here. So we got VW Cruisers all watching in Libsyn. Shout out to those guys out there in Lisbon. So it did sound good, Sue. The motor did sound good for sure.
Motor definitely sounds a lot bigger. Definitely like it's making some serious torque.
Road Dog 46 says Tafta has a roller crankshaft. That was his first drag racing engine with that crankshaft. So, and Tom says Jim is putting Ohio back on the map. Maybe this will go to a meet in the middle type thing. They're doing 666 this week, which we've seen a lot of these drag and drive events come up, which I've really loved seeing these things. A lot of the guys from the beer panzers have been doing it. Prescott and Chuck Fryer's been doing them. He just had a mishap, but those guys have been out there on the drag and drive events. So shout out to these guys, because they're out there doing it right now. His car, I think, just ended up on the trailer, but with these drag and drive events, you know, and we come to these dyno events, things like this, there's a big difference with the motors that you're building. And a lot of these guys, those guys, the beer pans is running naturally aspirated cars, and they're in the 12 second bracket, maybe bumping into the 11s. But some of these guys that are wanting to do the drag and drive, in my opinion, if I'm doing a drag and drive, I'm going to want to do a turbo. That's me.
Yeah.
And look, it's like I just swore right in front of him. He says a lazy guy's horsepower is the turbo.
Yeah.
I like it.
Naturally aspirated is definitely a lot harder to make massive power, right?
Yeah.
Turbo stuff, you know, it's a lot harder to keep them together.
Well, listen, I'm looking for the easy button, and I just take the dial and just crank the boost. Crank the boost.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. The drag and drive thing is huge right now, if you follow any of that. And that's kind of like the real street class out in the Buggins, right? We have to drive those cars in the morning 30, 40 miles, and then come and race them at the track, which is what got me interested in it, right? It's something different. So I would love to see more guys do the drag and drive stuff with the Volkswagen. Hopefully we'll get some of those events maybe out on the West Coast. And
yeah, well, last year I did the power tour. I did 2 days of the power tour. I wanted to run my car, and then, you know, with my car being touched by me, I took the battery strap off and I wouldn't text, so I wanted to run it. But in preparation for that, my crew cab that I was driving, it's built for freeway driving, 2200 Type 4 that's in there, and Adam's built my 2600 Type 4. But the 2200, I want to re-ring the cylinders, freshen up the heads, and I got a turbo set up for it from Turbos Direct, and I want to turbo that thing so that way I could have just a little bit of boost, just 10 pounds, just 10 pounds.
Just 10.
That's it. Okay, 7. I'll limit it at 7.
Okay.
Just enough oomph to make it impressive going down the track. But what my experience with those were, it's a fun event to really kind of cruise with those guys. I think it'd be more fun on the East Coast or the Midwest because the drives are shorter, much more visually appealing versus like we're out here just going across that desert. You know.
I've been really a fan of the Rocky Mountain Week, I think they call it, their drag and drive, because it goes through the Rocky Mountains, and the scenery, if you watch any of it on YouTube, just looks phenomenal. That's on my bucket list myself.
Yeah.
I'm definitely trying to put something together to go do that someday. Someday sooner than later, because we're all getting a little older.
As a friend of mine said, we're playing the back nine now, so we got to have fun while we can.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm going to be hopping a plane on Monday, and I'm headed to the UK for to road trip with a buddy of mine, Andy Finch, and some guys. All my buddies up in the UK, meeting Russell Ritchie, Jim Dix, Lee Masters. A bunch of those guys of us were driving from the UK. We're headed over to Bad Camberg, road trip into Bad Camberg. Then from Bad Camberg, we're going to take a couple tours of the VW factory and the Carmen Ghia Museum, and then we'll end up that next weekend at European Bug-In. So I got a busy 2 weeks coming up worldwide. I'm taking advantage of it before I get too old to cruise around the world. But we're up for our third pull now, right?
This is our third poll.
This is our third poll for Jim, for Jim's Custom VW. So out of Columbia, Ohio, putting Ohio back on the map. Let's see, Rich Sidoris says he's got an Autocraft Stage 4. Woo! Woo! You can feel it. Feel it in your spine.
That one's definitely.
That sounded good.
I tell you that one sounded a little bit better, but we'll have to see what the dyno results show.
We'll get the dyno results for the 2332 it is, right? 2387. 2387,
buddy. You just keep to the blabbing, and I'll keep to the text.
That's it. You keep to the technical stuff. I'm just over here. I'm here filling time.
So that thing's 2387. I think it's about 146 cubic inches. I'd have to do the math.
I got Robert Richards says 210 horsepower, and then let's see. Sue says Jim and Amy are the best. Y'all need to make their July show. So unfortunately for July, I'll be in the UK. So Eric Old Vintage Works says, I'd love to get Adam's opinion on rod length, short versus long in this competition. What's your opinion?
Oh, man. Well, it all depends on the stroke, but rod length comes down to cylinder head volume. I'm kind of a short rod guy. I got to be honest.
That's the word on the street.
Yeah. But I like the short rod. I like the piston speed.
Well, but with a short rod, is it a steeper angle?
It does have more rod angle, so longevity-wise, it's definitely probably not as good on the cylinder wall wear, piston skirts, but it spends less time up at top dead center. It definitely changes piston to valve a little bit. It definitely, when it rotates at the top of the stroke and comes back, it definitely accelerates a little harder in the first probably 20 degrees of crank rotation. So
do you think does it spin faster with shorter rods?
Anytime you can lighten up the rotating assembly with a shorter rod.
So you're just saying
piston,
overall the weight difference of a shorter
not
rod?
necessarily the weight. I mean, it's actually what the mechanics of the rod does too. But anytime you can do that, you definitely are, probably at a benefit. But the bolts. Here we got some results coming, guys.
We've got the results for Jim's. Okay, it's your last chance, guys. This is your last chance to guess before we read the results. Now, this is a 2387. I'm going to slide it on over here to Adam, and he's going to give us the results.
So it looks like on our first poll, Jim's motor was 221 horsepower, 178.5 foot-pounds of torque. He basically matched that on his second poll, and on his third poll, must have went the wrong way. It only made 210 horse. So his first poll was the best, had 221 and 178.5 foot-pounds. So not bad for that beast of a motor.
No, it's
definitely made some more torque than the Wright gearbox motor, but the Wright gearbox motor made some more power.
Yeah, so, it's about 16 pounds more of torque, but we are a little bit lighter on power. So it's interesting to watch. As you watch this combination, you can formulate a lot of different opinions with respect to how these different engine combinations are going to be running. So they just shut our lights off. They're telling us to get. No, just kidding.
No.
Our light went off on our spotlight, so for the beauty light. So if I don't look very attractive, it's not me, guys. It's the lighting. So you guys have. Let me see what we guessed. We guessed who was the closest. So Tom guessed 232. Anthony says 216. So Anthony was the closest. So yeah, we got Jim's Custom VWs coming on up.
Oh,
let's put the chalice here. Jim, how are you doing?
Good.
Welcome.
Hi, Jim. Welcome.
So, how do you feel the motor did?
Oh, I mean, it did what we did at home. I mean, I'm glad it's all together and didn't have to touch it.
Feels good.
Other than put oil in it.
It stayed together. It looked good.
Yeah.
Now, you're from Ohio.
Correct.
Tell me about the scene, the VW scene in Ohio.
It's real strong.
Yeah, they say you put on an event in July.
We put on, actually 3 shows. Or July is the main one, July 13th, and EMPI's coming out.
Nice.
And we usually get 250 so in show cars, and about last year we had 70 used vendors.
Nice.
It's a real nice show, and calm.
Now you've been in the VW game for a long time.
35 years.
35 years.
Yep.
Now, what made you go into VWs?
Well, I always had one since I was about 5th grade.
Yeah.
And I had another business that it was actually a farm market. And I started this was always a hobby, and started tinkering around, and then it just kind of, I said, well, I'll start the business up. It just kind of kept growing, so then the hobby turned into a full-time business.
And now your business now is full service, engines, everything you want.
Yeah, we do all the machine work in-house, service work. Engines, transmissions.
And how many people you got there working with you?
Basically, me and my wife, and then we have two friends that help us out every now and then, Walt and Steve. They're retired and have nothing to do someday. They come over and tinker around with us.
And so you build the motors there yourself, obviously?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
How many motors have you built in the past 35 years?
I don't know. We tried to estimate at least 15 to 2,000 or so. I don't know.
Yeah. So a couple thousand motors.
Right.
Now, for you, customer comes in, he says, Jim, I need that custom VW Touch. Give me the ideal street motor. I want a little bit of stoplight racing with me and my buddies, but I want to be able to drive it
Well,
Oklahoma.
that motor there, other than the compression, everything was just right off the shelf. I
So
mean,
no mods. No,
I maybe spent about an hour on the heads just blending some stuff, but other than that, it's the cam we use all the time. The Crowder cams, I love them.
what cam do you have in that?
Number 6 Crowder cam. It's not even their biggest one, but I mean, yeah. I mean,
And the carbs you run on that are 48s.
those are 51s.
51s.
Yeah. I mean, now, yeah.
So you're probably gonna go out on a limb and say you've done the least amount of machining work to that motor, like massaging and all that stuff. Like you're trying to do everything right out of the box.
Yes.
That's as out of the box as it gets.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome for out of the box.
Yeah, we got 225.9 Wednesday with 186 torque, I think it was. I don't know what my torque was today.
Yeah, torque today was
178.
Yeah, we lost a little bit, but that's about the.
I mean, that's really impressive for out of the box pieces put together. You don't have 40 hours in head work and that kind of stuff. I mean, we got.
Yeah, I know. I ported them at home too, and I just didn't have the time to do all that. And I said, well, at first, that's what I thought. Use the parts out of the box and see what we can do.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that's pretty impressive. Adam, any questions?
No, great piece. Think it
Thank you.
sounded awesome.
Yeah.
Glad you guys came all the way out to
Yeah,
do this.
it's been
and,
real fun.
When's the last time you've been out to the West Coast
This
for an
was the
event?
first time.
Oh,
This is
wow.
the first time.
First time we've been
Have
out
you
here.
been outside?
Oh yeah.
Since this started, you probably haven't been. There's just a ton.
Well, no, that's why we're going to go out and see it
There's
now.
a ton of people
Yeah,
out there, so
we're
there's
gonna go
definitely
out and see it now.
definitely a lot to see. And absolutely, I appreciate you coming out. I think it's so great that you know what I really dig about what you did is you went everything right out of the box.
Right.
Let's see what it'll do. And I mean that's
great.
hugely impressive.
No,
you
that's
know?
great.
And for it to be on a dyno like that, no troubles. I mean, that's golden. I appreciate you for coming
I
out.
appreciate you guys.
And,
Thanks a
thank
lot.
you very
Nice
much.
meeting you.
And I'll get your information. We'll get you on the podcast. I definitely want to get your story and see and tell me all about Ohio.
Yeah, we put 3 shows on. July 13th, and then our October one is what's October's? What's October 5th?
October.
Yeah.
That's his wife, Amy.
Yep,
right?
Amy, yep, that's Amy
everybody-
over there.
No one says Jim. It's Jim and Amy. Jim
right.
and Amy.
That's
So,
it.
Amy, hop on in here for a
Come here,
second,
Amy.
real quick.
Yeah.
Let's get. Come
Oh,
on,
she's
come on in
playing
here.
us a card.
This is Amy. This is his better half right here.
Yep.
Like we all have a better half. That's his better half, and she's over there coaching him. So we appreciate you guys for coming out. I mean, this is a fantastic opportunity to get people to know who Jim's Custom VWs is. And thanks to EMPI for putting this event on, and thanks to you guys for putting the hard work into getting that thing out here and putting your reputation on the line and throwing that thing on a dyno.
We kind of told everybody back home we have a big challenge going on to see how many from the East Coast can tag in during this thing.
That's it.
beat the
We got,
West
there's a
Coast.
lot of people. There are a lot of people on the East Coast that are rooting for you guys. So appreciate you guys for coming out. Thanks.
Thank you.
guys.
so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Great job.
Man, you got it. So we're gonna go on a break now, and we are out.
Okay. See you guys back here in a minute.
We're on.
If, like many people, you believe that passion ends, perhaps you've never really fallen in love. Our passion has no timeline, no expiration date. It has intensity, dedication, and loyalty. Because when we're together, every turn, on a family outing, or along competitive straights, the roar of your engine sets your emotions soaring and quickens your pulse. And that's why we've designed the heart of your air-cooled engine with excellence to give you the best experience. And for us to continue like this, experiencing incredible moments together, care is required. And that ranges from the strict control of a raw material to the perfect finish and integrity of the material. We are an authority in the production of cases and cylinder heads for air-cooled engines, a generally Brazilian company with a history that spans more than 40 years of quality, performance, safety, and tradition in over 40 countries on every continent. Every part is manufactured using high-precision equipment and the best tools available on the market. We are committed to your safety and uphold quality assurance as a duty. We developed the different versions to meet all your needs and standards. Everything is essentially thought out, designed, and executed so that our passion never slows down. Autolinea Performance. We drive every mile together, creating memories and sharing stories.
Since we first opened in a small retail store in Oceanside, California back in 1988, up until today, J-Bugs continues to grow our business with a love and a passion for vintage Volkswagens. We have the industry's largest retail inventory of air-cooled VW products, and our website, jbugs.com, is built with easy shopping in mind. Our hand-picked kits and bundles feature the highest quality products that we have available so that you can quickly find and purchase the parts you need to restore your vintage Volkswagen. Year, make, and model fitment built into our website shows only the parts that fit your VW for hassle-free shopping, and our engine fitment helps to locate the correct products if your engine has been upgraded or replaced over the years. Orders ship fast, and qualifying orders that are shipped in the lower 48 states ship free. Our staff of techs offer support to our customers, and they are air-cooled enthusiasts that know the products and the vehicles. Additionally, our free YouTube channel has over 300 videos with series on building engines, replacing floor pans, start-to-finish restorations, and we add to the library of free videos monthly. With J-Bugs, you can quickly and easily get the parts that your vintage Volkswagen needs.
I really believe that Manley is set apart because of our extreme attention to detail and our QC. We hold the tightest tolerances, we use the best materials, we use American materials, we machine everything here in-house, and everyone here is just passionate about what they do.
Our diversity is what makes us stronger. You know, one day we're focusing heavily on pistons, another day we're focusing heavily on connecting rods, another day we're knee-deep in crankshafts. I mean, we do so many different things. Push rods, valve train components, all of our term products, because we manufacture all of our own term products here. Retainers, spring cups, valve locks, all those things we make right here under our roof.
You have to fight to pull ahead, to find your edge, to do whatever it takes to make you 1/10 of a second faster, smarter, more committed than the other guy, because you've got the kind of passion that can overcome the impossible. And we've got the most powerful performance race fuel available to help you do it. Sunoco Race Fuels. Take the lead.
All right, we're back. So we got another motor up on the stand. We're ready to go, and this is going to be Benton Performance. And I want to give a shout out to the sponsors that are sponsoring this event. You know, J-Bug's the main sponsor. A lot of people that have been coming out to support and put on the event, and I'll run through the sponsors just a little bit. But this is Benton Performance, and they're here in Anaheim, California. He does a lot of primarily Porsche stuff and VW stuff, but I've seen a lot of Porsche stuff he's got going on. But so far, you know, he's the guy that fired up the 1641 that put out 100, and last time it ran, it put out 164 horse.
I do not recall what this one made last time, but it is the smallest of the engines that we have that are in the finals at 1641 cc's, 69 by 87. So looks like angle 130 cam. Lots of empty parts in there as far as that goes, but I'm just kind of going over the list, seeing if there's anything else. 1-to-1 rockers, so this is definitely a street motor for sure. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of power this thing makes. I would tend to say that definitely won't see the 200 horsepower range in this. Maybe you might get lucky and see a 200 horsepower 1600 here, but we'll see. They're warming it up right now, looking at it, and I'll probably get some heat in that thing, and then make some pulls on that dyno.
So they're getting ready to do this first pull. So if you're checking us out right now, we're live at the EMPI engine battle over here in Anaheim, California, and we're getting ready for our third engine of the day. This is going to be Benton Performance, and they're on the dyno running a 1641 right now. If you're checking this out on my Instagram, you can definitely go to EMPI's YouTube page and stream this. If you guys are already on EMPI, Adam, you see the questions over there. We got somebody saying hello from South Africa. Another person from South Africa, so there's quite a few people online around the world. I threw this, I'm running my Instagram live right now just to get my followers to jump on over to EMPI. Go check out EMPI's YouTube page. You guys can watch this on the live stream. We're here now, a first pull. How'd that sound for a 60? That's like a
pretty healthy, guys.
That's like a 1641 to you, Adam?
You know, that thing's got a little exhaust scavenging system on it. Looks like the guys over at Ross Wolf, Jason, those guys picked up on that. They're cooling that thing off. But for a 1641, I'll tell you what, sounded pretty darn good.
Yeah.
You know, I got Robert Richards asking, wondering if he made 190 horsepower. I don't know about that, but we'll find out soon.
Well, I know yesterday that 1641 ran 164 horse. 164.1 is what
Really?
it dynoed at the first time. So we'll see again. We've got Jack Sacchetti on the dyno today. A lot of different stuff today. The dynamics are different every day when there's a dyno challenge going on, especially if you've got a different dyno operator. You've got different ambient temperature, different humidity for the day.
Yeah. It's
all that stuff's going to make a difference.
Oh yeah, that's why they run all the motors the same day. So basically, they're all in basically pretty close to the same air. Jack's doing a heck of a job on the dyno. This, you know, it's just obvious that all the competitors are kind of standing around, hanging out, BSing a little bit, looking at the motors.
And I'm reading the room right now just to kind of see, are they making a jet chain? Or are they just cooling it down right now? So they're just cooling it down, and they've got this motor set up that's kind of a straight up drag motor. No cooling, no nothing, no adjustments. They're gonna grip it and rip it. So
yeah, it looks like they're just cooling it off. They put some heat in the oil right there. I think they'll probably run it a little higher and harder this time, and just
Adam, looks like there's a question in the live chat for you. What's the question saying?
What do we got? We got something about horsepower gains and coatings. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's tons of different coatings you can do, whether it's on the bearings, the skirts of the pistons, combustion chambers to help dissipate heat.
What about cylinder heads?
Friction. you can absolutely do coat the cylinder heads to help with heat dissipation and heat transfer. So that's why you'll see some of the headers have coatings. All your Molly pistons that you get from EMPI, Molly coats all the skirts of the pistons, so they basically a friction coating, helps with the braking procedure, helps with longevity. So, but you know, they've
someone's out here yelling some numbers. The guy from Benton. John Benton just came out here and he's saying some numbers, and looks like he's taking some extras
one of his guys
into the room,
tweaking.
And we're gonna do a little tweak, a little touch. So if you guys want to check this on the live stream, go to YouTube, the EMPI YouTube channel, and check us out on live stream. I'm gonna sign off on my Instagram later, guys that are out there. Come check us out on YouTube on EMPI's YouTube page. So we're live streaming now for the next about 2 hours. We're going to be here live streaming the next 4 motors. So far we've had Wright Gearbox run, and he came in at 238 horse for a 2165. We had Jim's Custom VWs, and he was 221 horsepower with a 2387. And then Benton Performance is up now. After Benton Performance, we've got Powerhouse. Powerhouse, if you guys were watching earlier this week, Powerhouse did the dyno pull showed 300 something like that on 2110. So we're gonna get today's gonna be the day where Jack's on the dyno. It's his dyno he had for years, so he's on and he's checking it out. So you can definitely tell the way he's running that dyno. It's definitely something he knows how to run it.
The dyno pulls are super smooth, very consistent. He's basically talking to all these guys, asking them what kind of RPM they want to run the thing at, and then we go from there.
Yeah, today everything is going to be, everything's on the table. So looking forward to that. And come check us out on the EMPI live stream. If you're on my Instagram real quick, come check us out on our EMPI live stream. Now, Benton Performance came in earlier this week, and it was the kind of the surprise runner, and he's one of the early ones that ran, and cranked out 164 horse out of a 1641. So it's a good amount of power. It's a gigantic amount of power for a 1641. It's definitely a neck wringer. I mean, you got to squeeze every inch to get everything out of that motor, but I think it's going to be. We'll see. They seem to be pretty excited when they were coming out of there. Waiting to hear what they've got at the dyno. What's your prediction, Adam? Based on what you see here, give me a rundown of what you see in that.
Oh man, this looks like it has a lot of conventional parts in it. Camshaft's pretty small for what I think this thing would need to win this competition. But I'm going to tell you, this thing probably is an honest 160, 170 horsepower motor. It does have big carbs. I'm sure it has big heads. We'll see. So looks like 1-to-1 rockers. Like I said, 130 cam, small cubic inches, but you never know. Those small inch motors definitely can make some big power. So
yeah,
there's
a guy made a comment on here that they're doing small motors in Europe and getting a lot of horsepower, but a lot of those motors are super, super custom, one-off pieces and parts. You know, the impressive thing about these cars is the majority of the heavy duty parts are all coming off the shelf at EMPI.
Yeah, a lot of the parts were mandated. You had to get cylinder heads, exhaust systems, certain stuff from EMPI.
We got more stuff happening outside, all kind of stuff. Is that a motor out there running, or is that a car? I think they might have the rolling chassis dyno out there.
Oh yeah, they might have the chassis dyno going now.
A few years ago on that rolling chassis dyno, they had Steve Dalton showed up over here. Everybody was having a good day until Steve Dalton showed up with the turbo bug. They were like 250, 260, and then he rolls up on the rollers and cracks out 560.
Wow.
At the wheels.
That's pretty amazing.
Are you ready for a turbo now?
No, I'm still an NA guy. Speaking of turbos, my good buddy Corey McClenathan just walked in the building, came over and said hi to us. If you guys remember the Mac Attack stuff from back in the 90s, Corey's over here at EMPI checking it all out. He's getting ready to do a big event, basically in Las Vegas at the end of the year.
Yeah, they're doing that event. They're doing an event December 7th, so That'll be taking place at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We're looking forward to seeing that. Not to be confused with the event that's happening one crazy weekend, October 3rd through the 5th in Las Vegas. Come out there, check it out. It's going to be a good time. What do we got happening in the live chat? Anybody out there? Hello from Las Vegas. We got some people from Vegas coming out there that are hitting us up.
Yeah, we got people from Canada. We got people from VW Cruise.
Everybody
watching.
post
Jim
up
and
in the
Amy
chat
got
where
this.
you're from. Let's give a shout out to your
sounds
city.
like 178 horsepower. Brian W. says more and more. So I smell oil, somebody else is saying. We got all kinds of little things going on in the live chat.
No, actually, not too much. I'm not smelling a lot of oil.
No, actually, I think we got more smells coming from outside with
Right?
that chassis dyno. So, but here at the EMPI engine dyno, everything seems to be going good. We haven't seen any oil sprayed all over the dyno room yet. Let's hope we don't.
Yeah, everything's copacetic, and we're making that happen. Let's should we drag Corey over here?
Well, we might do that in a little bit. Southwest Florida.
While we're waiting to see what we got
South
happening with
Carolina,
Benton
Brazil.
Performance.
Here we got some guys from Brazil checking
Brazil,
in.
Arizona. What do you got?
We
Read them off to me.
Poland, Europe, man. We got all kinds of stuff.
British Columbia.
Yeah, worldwide. That's awesome. We're glad.
Where's
you guys
my
are all
people in
checking
Europe? Chime in, you guys in Europe. Chime in.
Yeah, man, it's going pretty smooth this morning here at EMPI down in Anaheim.
Now,
I'm sure the car show is going off out there. The swap meet. Sounds like they got the chassis dyno going out there. Food vendors. I think there's even a beer truck back there. So
yeah. Now
down
John
and check it
Benton on his bio says he's built hundreds of motors, so we'll find out about that. First engine build. What do you recall the most? And he built a 2 horsepower Briggs and Stratton, and it worked. So wait a second. Looks like they've got some excitement coming out of there. So Jim Benton coming out. They're pretty excited. They're looking like they're pretty happy in the dyno room.
Yeah,
These guys throwing up.
We haven't got no numbers yet, but
No numbers yet,
we'll
but
see. So
maybe we're hitting another one. So he says that they do anything air cooled, and any family members. He's got family members on staff, and estimated experience in his shop 150 years combined experience. So definitely been in the game for a while. And he works, he's here out of Anaheim, California, which is like the epicenter for a lot of people with air-cooled street cars because the weather here is so nice, right?
it is, man. There's nothing like this SoCal weather. You figured that out real quick when you move away.
Well, when you come down, if you can get some peace when you pull out of traffic, you enjoy the weather. But as soon as you go on the freeway, you're like, now I know.
Yeah, the traffic
know.
is crazy. After being gone for 24 years up in Las Vegas, trust me, we've had a week and a half already of 105 plus degree days. So
105,
I had to
nothing.
I had to bring my ski suit, parka to come down here in Orange County. It's only 78 degrees, and I'm like, holy cow, I need a hoodie.
You definitely get a little bit acclimated.
Yeah, it is nice though.
So
being
we're
back.
up. Benton's in there. He's got money's no object, man. He's making it rain. Just made it rain in the dyno room with some cash.
Oh.
So he's pretty excited about that. There's a lot of happy emotions going on there in the dyno room. So now see if he leaves the money on the ground. He's really a player, but we might pick it.
No, we're gonna see. We got some stuff going
Yeah,
on.
they're,
Looks like they're
doing a little
discussing
jet
maybe
tweak.
some jetting, for that little motor. That's what they got going. So they're kind of working on that and see if they can squeeze a little bit more power. We haven't got any initial power numbers yet, but I'm sure they'll feed them to us. When,
We've got
when we're
Rickster
ready.
from Devon, UK. We've got Texas chiming in. We got Sao Paulo, Brazil.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto
we got some guys
Rico.
from Puerto Rico. This is, hey guys, Rob and the EMPI guys, shout out. So
That's it. Bad Raz coming in. Old Stanley over there.
Stan the man, Bad Raz. Yep, that's from
it.
Salinas.
The UK Cal Look Registry's on. What's up, guys?
Yep.
So what do you guys think? Post your numbers that you guys guess. Post your numbers. Would you say the difference between Corey and Jack in a drag car? Because we're looking at these two guys standing next to each other. Is that
David and
5
Goliath?
thousandths of a second? How much quarter mile time difference is that?
Yeah,
Same car.
That's a tenth, buddy. That's a tenth.
It's a solid
That's a tenth.
10. Is that how you size them up in the drag race?
Well,
Looking them up and say.
Corey's
Kinda
a little
like-
short guy, and Jack's a big
So
man.
if we were comparing the two, I would say Jack's more like me, and Corey's more like Adam.
Well, probably right. That's probably pretty close.
So there's a Clydesdale class, and then there's the jockey class.
Yeah, the thoroughbred. The real racers, right? Oh, no offense, Mr.
But
Zucchetti.
it's that's one of the things you never take into consideration, right? A guy's got a car all dialed in. He's a little bit bigger guy like me, and let's say I lose 50 pounds, hop back in the car. That'll make a little bit of a difference in the quarter
probably
mile.
500, depending on how that car, how heavy that car is.
There's more benefits to watching your diet and working out than just health.
Oh yeah.
There's quarter mile times to be improved.
Quarter
as
mile
well.
times. It's all about the weight. That's why they make carbon fiber parts.
That's
some
it.
of those guys out there that have acquired them.
We got them from Hawaii's online. I like it. Hawaii.
here we
got Belize.
Yeah,
nice.
168
So what do you
solid
say?
effort.
So he's guessing 165 horsepower, solid effort for a 1641. Someone else, Peter's guessing 175.
Yeah, Peter the Heater, 175.
Peter the Heater, bro. What's Peter bringing?
I don't know.
He's bringing the heater.
You better.
He's on the super chat. So guys,
here we
make
go.
sure you chime in on the chat. We're in the mix of it now. This is the second dyno pull for the 1641.
Yep.
We're ringing
See
that
what she
thing's
sounds
neck.
like.
So we're here, we're watching. Pretty exciting. There we go. Dyno pull number 2.
Nice, solid pull.
That's a
there.
pull.
That one
What do we
sounded
got?
Very good.
Rodney Millen says 180. Ricardo says 148.
Derek Casa, 145. Derek of Hawaii. I think it definitely is making more than
Eric
145.
Martin says 170. Herman Rivera Ortiz says 180. Guys, post up what you think it's going to run. Martin, my man Martin, I'll see you in a few days, brother. I'll see you Thursday in the UK. Worldwide, baby, worldwide. Let's talk Dubs. Listen, you guys want to hear some good VW content? Go check out the podcast at letstalkdubs.com. 270 episodes, and you want to hear this guy's story? This guy's story is on Let's Talk Dubs.
It is.
A lot of the stories are here on Let's Talk Dubs. The history of the hobby. If you love the hobby, go check it out. You'll never believe what happened when Adam went to sell his drag car. And to hear the rest of that story, go to Let's Talk Dubs and listen to the Adam Wick podcast. It's definitely a wild story. So, and he's a bit of a chatter, so he's a good storyteller. But
I don't know about that.
let's see.
What do we got
All right,
here? 48 to
180 horse.
1600.
Let's
What's
see.
the
A lot of
Jetty?
guesses over here.
Yeah.
Oh.
175. A lot of 175, 178s on the guesses. Michael Oakes is at 190. I got another Derek Costa. It says 48s on a 1600. What's the Jetty? Well, we'll ask him that when he comes out and does his interview. We'll find out.
We'll ask him. I think if I'm looking at the engine specs here, I don't think we've got valve sizes here.
No.
So everybody's got, and that's really the combination, right? What people are doing with the valves, cam, and all that kind of stuff is really going to be the combination that's going to make that work. Now, your opinion on a motor like this, you think this has got the best advantage because you can just wring its neck, and because you're starting with such a low baseline of cubic inches, you've got the closest net gain.
Yeah, small cubic inch makes the cylinder heads bigger. I don't think he has enough camshaft in that thing. But
by the sound of it, does it sound like it's topping out?
By the sound of the RPM, and just looking at, I know how big an angle 130 is, right? And that is something that we use in a street car, but not in an all-out performance. I just want to make 3 dyno pulls with the most
Here's
power.
a question that nobody asked that I think somebody would probably want to ask. You get an Engel 130. Is that cam designed to go with ratio rockers or not?
That is. I think you can put 125s on it.
So if you run it with stock, no ratios, you can do that, or you can increase the ratio rocker on it.
100%. You can run it with 1-to-1s. You can run it with 125s, and if you're really crazy, you could probably run it with 1.4s. But you better know what you're doing.
Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen a dyno difference between ratio rockers and no ratio rockers? Like what kind of horsepower?
Oh,
it adds?
absolutely.
What do you think it would add if you had to guess horsepower-wise
On this motor right here, I think if you put 125 rockers on it, I'd probably pick up 10 to 12 horse.
That much?
Oh yeah. If you got the cylinder
And
heads
that's all
to
going to be
flow,
top end horsepower.
That's all going to be top end. If you got the cylinder heads to flow, it'll pick up 10 to 12 horse.
Are you going to lose a little bit on the low end because of the lift?
Nah. Depends on where the cam's timed at and stuff like that. You know, I don't think you're going to lose it. I think you'd pick up all the way around, but you got to have the right valve stream package. You got to have the right push rod package. It's definitely more aggressive on the acceleration. It wears parts out quicker, you know, but on something like this, it's just part of it.
If you guys are out there watching right now on the live stream, make sure you guys throw in your questions, man. We'd love to hear the questions you have. Any engine questions you have, you can ask this guy who's built thousands of engines. Any questions on the VW hobby and history and nonsense, you might throw my way. If you guys listen to Let's Talk Dubs, let me know. I'd love to see what you guys are thinking about this engine dyno challenge. If you guys, let me ask this question, you guys listening, if you guys were to put on an engine dyno challenge, what rules would you put out there? Throw them in the live chat. Let me know what you would put in there to make it interesting. What do you guys think makes this the most interesting from competitor to competitor? What do you think is going to tell you who the best builder is?
Yeah, that's a good thing. Or maybe what do you guys want to see? What would you guys like to see if EMPI decides to do this next year? You tell us what you think, and maybe EMPI can design something around that, and that'll be what they go after next year.
Ha. Patrick Downs has got a question. We got old Patrick Downs asking a question. Adam, what's he asking? What's he asking?
Read that. It says,
he says,
when is Adam coming back to Pro Stock?
When are you coming back to Pro Stock,
That
Adam?
ain't happening. Buddy.
Come on, bro. I got a car.
Too rich for my blood. So, the real street thing's really fun right now. We're having a good time. We'll see if we can't win some rounds on Sunday. No guarantees, but Pro Stock, yeah, that's a whole nother animal.
So one guy says torque horsepower average result. We're waiting on that. So Andy says on there, torque horsepower result. Is that a question, a statement, or are you saying that would be your parameters? Limit the valve and head size. And
we haven't got any numbers yet, guys. They've done a couple pulls. They haven't brought us any numbers.
They're still cooling it down. They're going for a third pull.
They're changing jets right now and cooling it off. They're going to make a third pull. Basically, I got guys out there asking. We got a lot of 170, mid 170s, which probably is about right.
So we've got George says, make it an annual event and bring more international competitors. So what you guys would have to do international, the people in the UK would have to get together on a container, ship all the motors over. It's a bit of work.
I think we should do it. I think we should get all the vendors involved, put up a good purse for this stuff. I think you'll see a lot of the big engine builders getting into it. In the V8 world, that's how they do it. I know for a fact that some of the biggest engine builders in the country and in the world do it, and it's good.
What do you? What do you think realistically? I mean, you're going to put the time in there, but so me personally, if they said, Bill, would you add to the event? I would first make a heavyweight belt for most horsepower per cubic inch. Then every year the belt has to go to the new champion,
or just to have a trophy, right? And you get to keep it for a year, and it has your name, your plaque, and it stays.
That's it.
And maybe maybe it even stays in EMPI's showroom, right? And where basically your name and your company name's on that plaque, and it just happens every year, and
the other
we can
thing,
all use it for advertising.
Here's one thing that would make it interesting. You've got to drive your car the day before from Vegas.
That ain't happening.
Vegas.
This guy's
to Anaheim.
On our break
pull
here,
the motor and throw it on the dyno.
That ain't happening. No.
You know why he's saying it's not going to happen? Because the Type 4 guy's taking it.
Oh, no way.
I'm taking the torque
Type 4 ain't happening. Not in this.
A car that's going to make it. What do you think? What do you think is going to get you longevity? Well, obviously this is most horsepower per cubic inch. It would be interesting to see who could build the most, just a flat torque motor.
Yeah, they can change the rules up and go biggest torque.
Yeah.
They can change the rules up, and they really need to probably put an RPM range or limit. But yeah, they can change it up every year. That's how they do it in the other industries. They can change it. This year is all horsepower per cubic inch, and maybe next year it's like, hey, the most torque at the lowest RPM, or pick a number, right? So it's sky's the limit. throw in the comments, see what you guys think would be a good idea.
Yeah,
we can try and convince EMPI to do this again.
We just fired it
come out
up.
here and have some fun.
We just fired up for our third pull, and we've got the fans running, so we're gonna get our third and final pull because each competitor gets 30 minutes, and the people that are still up to run, next is gonna be Powerhouse. After Powerhouse gonna be DJ Automotive, and then Seward Speed Shop will be the final contestant. Today. Right now we're listening to the last pull for Benton Performance. So let's see what we have here.
Sounds good for a 1641, I gotta tell you.
I mean,
Definitely sounds
that
good.
sounds solid.
Get your numbers
So,
in, guys. 'Cause,
I got
that
someone in
was
the
probably
chat
last
said,
one.
when is Chico going to be on Let's Talk Dubs? Listen, Let's Talk Dubs is for everybody in the community. I'd love to have Chico on there. We'd love to talk. Interestingly enough, some of the most listened to podcasts I have are technical podcasts where guys get deep in the weeds about stuff. When I had Fred Simpson on there, I have people sending me messages saying, man, I listened to it 4 times because Fred's been doing heads so long, he just starts spitting off formulas and all this stuff off the top of his head. He's like, oh, you want 250 horsepower? That's easy. You just got to this by that. And I'm over here on the podcast trying to make a spreadsheet while I'm talking to him, and I just gave up. But there's definitely a lot of insight when you can take the time to sit down with somebody for an hour and just have a conversation about doing things. You know, we live in a society today where everything is little clips and small sound bites and little type things. And one of my favorite things about doing the podcast is there's a long-term opportunity to get to know people. And by the time we're done having an hour and a half conversation, people now have heard your story. And when they meet you, they kind of already know what kind of cloth you're cut from.
Absolutely.
And we're already part of that Volkswagen community where we've got this common interest that we already know when we meet each other, like you see each other in your eyes, you're like, yeah, you've been stranded by a clutch cable before. I can see it in your face, and you still drove home. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
you figured it out. You
yeah,
popped
there's
that thing in gear and made it.
There's that type of tenacity where it's like, you know, that guy's a Volkswagen guy. He's willing to put up with some crap because he loves that car so much.
Absolutely, the VW world is just a different world. It's the people's car, right?
It is, man. It is.
And we all have something in common. We love cars, and that's what brings us all together.
So, interestingly, what says, Godfrey Keaton says, if you're wanting to showcase EMPI components for future contests, limit modifications, no more head case mods with hundreds of hours work. Jim's custom VW engine is an excellent example of this.
Yeah.
And you know, for the first one, and here's the interesting thing about competitions. One thing that I've learned, because I'm not a drag racer, right? But what I've learned from interviewing drag racers, people that race or do things competitively, they look at what's not in the rule book and go for it. And so if there's no this or no that, or this, it doesn't say this or doesn't say that, everybody's always looking for an angle, an edge, or something. So
yeah, that's how it is. I mean, anytime there's a competition,
rules are made by things that no one said you couldn't do.
Well, that's it. Oh, here we got some results coming, guys. We got some results coming for Benton Performance's little 1641.
All right, so we've got the results for the 1641 today. This is your last chance to guess on the live chat. If you guys want to guess horsepower, now's your time to throw that in the chat, because in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we are now going to tell you the horsepower ranking for Benton Motorsports 1641. Go ahead, Adam.
Oh, first pole, 149.5 horsepower, 120 foot-pounds. It looks like they probably did a little jet change, tuned it up a little bit. Second pole is their best pole, made 154 horsepower, 115 foot-pounds. So they probably ran that thing up a little bit higher in the RPM range, picked up some power. Last pole didn't go their way. It only made 133 with 107 foot-pounds. So the second pole was the best for Benton Performance at 154 horsepower.
Now, when you see a dyno pull like this, where you start off, the motor's a little warm, peak warmth, and then it's a little hot at this point, or what do you think's happening?
Nah, I think they probably just picked a different RPM range to run it in. I think they, they're adjusting it. I can tell by the torque numbers, they probably ran that thing up a little bit higher in the RPM range, and that's what it probably needed to do to make that kind of power.
But let's be real about this. 154 horsepower from a 1641.
Yeah, pretty much three times what a stock motor makes. Let's say a stock motor makes 50 or 60 horse. That's 3 times. That would be like taking your Camaro that makes 400 and making it make 1,200. So, here we go.
That's
we
it.
got
Come on, have a
John
seat.
from Benton
I'm John.
coming over.
John Benton, Benton Performance. Well, I'm Bill.
Bill, right on Bill, and
Adam Wick.
Adam. Bill and Adam. Okay.
That's it.
Not like Adam and Eve, but
That's
still
it.
pretty
Close
beautiful.
enough. Close
Yeah.
enough. So, tell me what you're thinking about your dyno results. You had your first pull first time right now. First, it's a big move to go 1641. What's the philosophy behind that?
Okay, so I went back to 1980. I'm broke as fuck, right?
Right.
Going to Southgate High, but I got my little Gia. I got a couple little project rides. That's the motor that used to be in my Gia.
Really?
Wow.
So, but we could get leaded 96 or 94
Right.
over at the 76 station, you know. And, but I used to run a motor like that on the street. So I said, look, I'm just going to build a fun motor and try to break it.
See if you can snap
And we
it
did.
on that.
We did. It seized. Last run, it seized.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was peaking up and then
What did you run it at? What were you running it at for RPM?
8,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then, what's some of the custom mods you did to it? Anything you're willing to divulge, like some of the stuff?
No,
that
no,
you
I'll
did?
tell you everything. That is a EMPI motor.
Okay.
It's all the EMPI parts they wanted us to use. It's got stock, like out of the box Mala 1641 87s, cast iron cylinder, flat top forged aluminum piston. It's got stock 1500 VW rods that have been shot peened into oblivion. Stock lifters, well, it had stock rockers until yesterday. So I lost 10 horsepower putting 125 rockers on it.
Oh, wow.
Well, that answers our question.
Well,
right?
I
We
went
just
the other
talked
route.
about
I'm wrong.
Lift on rockers because you had the 130 cam on there.
Yeah, so it's just out of the box, you know.
So that motor, you don't got hours and hours of machine work in there.
I got $3,800 in that motor.
Oh, wow. Well, he wins for the most economical piece.
That's what VW guys do, right?
No, that's what it's about, man. I mean, if you're some rich kid from Yorba Linda, like this is what the deal. I'm in Southgate, LA guy. I grew up in LA. We used to like go around, and these kids from Yorba Linda, nope.
No offense.
No offense.
Yeah.
But these kids would roll in like 1835s, 2180s, like, God damn. But you know what? I used to smoke them with 1641s.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do that again just for shits and giggles. 'Cause
Right.
that was where I was at. So I went back in time, and my
I mean, a
guys.
C130 is going way back, right? I mean, that was the cam
Yeah,
back
that's
in
a
the
great
day.
little
We weren't
package.
running ratio rockers and shit. You know, we
Right.
we just kind of were having fun. And look, I didn't have any money, so we just kind of played with stuff and had fun with it. So, you know, we punched the pistons like anywhere from a mil to a mil and a half above the deck, and then all the work's in the heads. I took the EMPI heads. I had to weld them up because they don't sell their score head anymore. But I had to move the spark plug up, and then Siamese the two valves in. I got a 42 millimeter intake and a 37.5 exhaust. I could have done more, but I'm really busy at the shop, you know, and
So you thought, grenade, I'm gonna pull the pin and just do the baddest thing I could do in the least amount of time.
That's what I told him right now. I said, you know what? It's getting tired. Just run it to the moon. I don't care. And you could hear it at the end. I saw the float above the carbs. The mist started to go, and then it went like this. I'm like, oh, and in my head, I'm like, oh, it's done. And then when they shut it off, it's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, that's it. We're done. But it was supposed to do a number of pulls, and I thought it would either seize or throw a rod.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
it's so stock inside.
Yeah, we can see by all the parts list. I was
Yeah,
telling
that-
everybody a lot of stock parts.
really impressive.
It's an EMPI non-counterweight crank, 69 millimeter non-counterweight crank.
Right there, right there. That's what poor people do.
Hey.
That's
Heck of a job.
A kid from the streets.
I know where I came
That's
from.
what you do. You slide some 1641s, you throw some compression at it, and you do what you
I still
can.
have shrapnel in me. I thought I'd give some to you guys, but it didn't happen. Sorry to disappoint.
Man, well, you
Awesome.
know, I think it's awesome. I think it's a great opportunity for you to come out and really show people, like, because we had some comments saying they shouldn't do anything to it. It should just be out of the box, EMPI stuff. And
Well, I think in the future we'll do. I thought this was a quarantine event. I thought it was quarantine. I really did. So we did our runs, and I left the thing alone, and it was just sat here. But you know what? You can look at it different ways. Here's the deal. This was for fun.
right.
Anybody who took this super serious, please see a therapist.
Right,
You got a
right.
real problem. So we did this for fun.
Yeah.
And all these dudes are badasses. I
Yeah.
swear to God. I had so much fun hanging out with these guys. We had a dinner all together.
Thursday night on my 37th wedding anniversary. God
Nice.
bless my wife.
Yeah.
We had burgers
An
together
angel.
with a bunch of VW dudes, just like back in the day. We
Yeah.
would have been at Lucky Boys or Wiener Schnitzel or some shit back in the day and having a good time. So
No, that's awesome.
this was so much fun. I hope they do it again. If I can make the mouse reborn,
Yeah.
if whatever's salvageable from this, I'll bring it back.
We'll rerun it.
I'm going to run a 1641 at this event in perpetuity if they'll let me come back.
Nice.
I'm just going to do that.
Awesome.
I love it. I
Awesome.
love it. I love the high school attitude, the guy who builds it, because that's where we all come from. We all come.
Are you kidding me? That's what got me laid.
Volkswagens.
Yeah, she's still here. That's how good it was.
Oh, man.
1641 for the win, boys. 1641 for the win. Just so you know.
I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations. That's great. I definitely, we want to do an in-depth with you on Let's Talk Dubs podcast. I'd love to get you on there and get your whole story.
Just
'Cause
have
I
your
know-
bleeper ready.
That's it. I know.
All right.
I know we're more than ready. You got tons of time and tons of experience in the game, and I love your enthusiasm to keep it as organic as possible. On the
Organic's the best way to put it,
Yeah.
really. It
No,
really was.
I love it. I've been telling this guy, the engine builder, I said, can't, because I'm the cheap VW guy. I'm like, can't I just build it without a counterweight crank? And he's like, oh, no, we don't do that.
I've won, no, check this out. In a 1962 356 Porsche,
Yeah.
I've won 3 La Carreras with a non-counterweight C crank, which is very similar to that crank.
Yeah.
So close, it's scary. And I did that because, look, these are through hardened cranks.
Yeah.
They're tough as nails. Did the crank go?
No.
No. The 1500 rods, did they go? No, they're still there. Light is where it's at. Lightness
Yeah.
is power.
That's
Now, you
awesome.
wouldn't know it by looking at me, but there was a time when I was narrow as a nail, so.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And you had a great run. I love it.
I did it, Mom. I did it. I love you. All right.
All right, so we're gonna be we're gonna be going on a 15-minute break, guys. So we'll chat with you when we get back.
I really believe that Manly is set apart because of our extreme attention to detail and our QC. We hold the tightest tolerances, we use the best materials, we use American materials, we machine everything here in-house, and everyone here is just passionate about what they do.
Our diversity is what makes us stronger. You know, one day we're focusing heavily on pistons, another day we're focusing heavily on connecting rods, another day we're knee-deep in crankshafts. I mean, we do so many different things. Push rods, valve train components, all of our turn products, because we manufacture all of our own turn products here. Retainers, spring cups, valve locks, all those things we make right here under our roof.